I had a plan. Season 5 was supposed to go live on October 7th, but here I am sitting down to record this episode on October 13th, and I honestly have no idea when you will actually hear it. Everything behind the scenes feels a bit messy right now, and honestly, that feels like the most honest way to begin this season because this is exactly the direction of season 5, more real life, the raw, human, messy middle of being a woman and a mother in constant evolution. Because what's unfolding behind the scenes has really reminded me of something much deeper than I initially thought this first episode of the season would be. We are never really in control of the timeline. Now, before we get into the chaos of what's been happening behind the scenes, I want you to go into this episode and into this season really feeling the direction that we are going. I am peeling back the layers and allowing myself to be a lot more vulnerable with you because I know that within every single story and episode, you will find so many pieces of yourself. Welcome to the Follow Your Gut podcast, the show for the woman who's ready to stop outsourcing her and her family's health and start leading it. I'm your host, Juniper. Every week, I'll teach you how to understand your body and your child's symptoms through the lens of the gut so you can take clear, confident steps towards real healing. This isn't about chasing symptoms or following trendy protocols. This is about foundational healing, where we get to the root of it all, your gut. I am so happy you're here. Let's dive in. The last episode of the Follow Your Gut podcast aired on August 26th, and the plan was to relaunch season 5, as I mentioned, on October 7th. I have never even taken a week break since starting this podcast, and I decided to go into this new season very intentionally. I wanted to create space to really reimagine what this podcast is becoming. During that time, I was also in conversations with 2 different podcast production agencies, both interested in taking on the Follow Your Gut podcast. The idea was that instead of me gathering episode ideas inspired by conversations with you, outlining the episodes, recording them, editing them, and then passing the publishing onto my wonderful assistant, Apple, a production studio would take it to the next level. They'd guide the creative direction based on metrics instead of conversation, handle production, and help expand the show's reach. It was everything I thought the podcast should be, the next big, exciting leap. I even remember saying in my Instagram stories, this is it. Season 5 is going to be incredible. This is where the show grows, where it impacts even more people. And while I didn't really have a clear vision of exactly what season 5 was going to hold, I knew it, and I still know it, that season 5 will be the most impactful season yet. But as those meetings unfolded, something inside of me started to feel really off. I couldn't name it at first, but it just didn't feel aligned. I have been in this seat many times before. In the 5 years of building Only, I have been continuously faced with learning how to live and lead in true alignment with myself, with my family, and with the kind of impact I want to make, one that's completely separate from societal expectations and norms. There isn't a single part of Only that's been built by following a traditional business model. Every piece of it has been created from my intuition and lived experience. And anytime I've tried to step outside of that, anytime that I have followed the shoulds of what business is supposed to look like, I've found myself in a mess. So when it came to these podcast production agencies, sure, on paper, that's what made the most sense. It's what any business textbook would tell you, but it's not what makes sense for me. Because for it to be based more on metrics than connection, to just show up with my voice and not my heart is not in alignment. So I messaged both of the agencies and told them I was going to continue producing the Follow Your Gut podcast myself. It might not be polished or as professional as they could have made it, but that's exactly the point. That's what Follow Your Gut has always been, and it's what this new season is calling more of. Less perfection, less polish, more vulnerability, more truth. Really pulling back the layers and being honest about what's really happening behind the scenes, not just in healing, but in business, in motherhood, in life. Because like you, I am not a one-dimensional woman. And I believe there is so much beautiful expansion waiting for all of us when we stop trying to fit into the box of how it's supposed to look, and instead we honor what actually feels right. And I know you have been here many times too, in your own ways. If not with a podcast or a business, in life, in marriage, in motherhood, you have had many moments where you knew that what everyone else said technically made sense, but something deep inside of you said it wasn't right. Maybe it was a doctor's recommendation that just didn't sit right, or a parenting decision that went against your intuition, or a season where you kept pushing, even though your body was begging you to slow down. We have all been there, standing at that crossroads between logic and our own inner truth. And it's in these moments the alignment asks to be chosen, even when it doesn't make sense on paper. I am, in quite honesty, really proud of the space that I created for myself, the space that allowed me to make that decision with confidence instead of fear. Because my mission with this podcast isn't to chase millions of downloads or make it bigger just for the sake of growth. My mission is to make an impact, to serve the women and families who need this healing the most. I really dodged the mess of this podcast falling completely out of alignment. But as life tends to do, I found myself in a different kind of mess not long after. And honestly, I think that's the beautiful part of expansion, because growth in any area of our lives requires learning, whether it's in healing, in business, in our relationships, in motherhood, or even in our self-care. Expansion always stretches us in ways we couldn't have prepared for. So about 6 months ago, I hit a point with Only where I knew I needed to restructure how I was doing everything. I was fully committed to being all in my motherhood when I wasn't working, and the rhythm that my family found worked really beautifully. I would go away for 2 nights every month and create everything for the next month. So this was 4 podcast episodes, 8 newsletters, 4 blog posts, and all of my Instagram content so that when I came home, I could be fully present with my family. During those weeks in between, the only work I had was responding to DMs. But other than that, I was all in with my family, homeschooling, and really living the life that I love. Then in April, I arrived at my workaway and realized that everything was bottlenecked. Every system we had was completely maxed out. We had grown so much that our email platform couldn't handle the volume, and our website was slowing to a crawl from the amount of traffic. On one hand, it was such a beautiful problem to have. It meant that we were growing. The mission of Only was expanding. People around the world were healing. But in that moment, I felt completely in over my head and overwhelmed. Like the very growth that I had dreamed of was keeping me from serving the women and families who had found Only in the way that they deserved. My workaway time wasn't supposed to be about fixing technical issues like this. It was my sacred time to create, to sit in that flow of inspiration and make the kind of content that deeply serves you. But instead, I found myself paralyzed. I called my husband, Ty, who for the past year and a half has been full-time at Only with me, and said, I don't know what to do. I don't know if this is sustainable anymore. And he said so simply, we just need to hire someone to manage all of the tech side of the business. Oh, of course. I felt so seen, and truthfully, like £1,000,000 had been lifted off of my shoulders with just the idea. So we found someone. We hired him. He was lovely and kind and seemed competent and wonderful to work with. And for a while, it really did feel like the right decision. But 6 months later, so this brings us to the beginning of October, I found myself in a tremendous mess. I had fully surrendered so many responsibilities to him, one of them being the migration of our entire email system. We were moving from a platform that wasn't very intuitive to one that integrates so beautifully with our website, something that will ultimately allow us to serve you so much better. I trusted that he had it handled. But about 5 weeks after going live on the new system, I started getting messages, DMs from so many of you saying you hadn't received the free resources that you signed up for. And then there were a few more of these messages and a few more. I wanted to trust that it was just a small glitch, that it would work itself out. So I brushed it off and I would just manually send these people what they needed. And then one morning, everything came to a head. A really sweet customer sent me a screenshot showing that she had received 15 identical emails within 2 minutes. My heart dropped because the last thing that I want to do is bombard you. Now, that same morning, Ty had just left on a road trip with our boys. My daughter had a full week of activities, and I had intentionally stayed home and carved out this rare week for myself to rebuild the course that comes with every gut rebalance kit and symptom specific bundle. My energy was meant to be creative, not crisis driven. But suddenly I was sitting there staring at the screen, realizing that our 35,000 person email list was either not getting the emails they had asked for or being completely bombarded. I'm sharing all of this because it's such a powerful reminder that even when we make decisions from a place of alignment, even when we hire the right people or go to the right doctor or we act from a place of integrity, things can still fall apart. But this doesn't mean that it was all wrong. Sometimes we have to walk through it to get to where we are truly meant to be. And I know you have been here or you are currently here. You have tried everything to heal yourself or your child. You have gone to so many different doctors. You've met with countless specialists, and you've tried every elimination diet, every supplement, every protocol. You have done everything, and yet nothing has worked. So you or your child are still left with symptoms. You had to walk that really, really hard road to get to this point. Just like I did with my son. I took him to 17 different healthcare professionals over the course of 2.5 years. Every single time I was broken down a little bit more. Every time I was told something different. And it wasn't until I hit that deepest breaking point that I finally found the clarity and the courage to do what actually healed him. I understand. You have done everything. And while it can feel so discouraging, like you have wasted so much time and money, or you have been robbed of really sacred years of your own life, of your child's childhood, it's important to pause and really recognize that everything that brought you here was preparing you. Every single detour, disappointment, and sleepless night was part of leading you exactly where you are meant to be. So when I realized the mess we were in with our new email system, my natural tendency was to jump straight into panic, to try to fix it really quickly, to figure it out myself. The old part of me that lived in survival mode for so many years started to rise up. But because my son's healing journey, motherhood in general, and growing only has expanded me so much as a woman, I caught it. I had the wisdom this time to pause, to breathe, to regulate my nervous system before reacting. I did a tapping meditation and came back to a really grounded place. Instead of reacting, I was able to take action. From that space, I felt the strongest clarity, this deep sacral hell yes, that I wasn't going to let this mess take over my life. I wasn't going to let it create chaos. I wasn't going to panic. I wasn't going to let it derail the week of work that I knew truly matters. I decided right then that I was going to use that week exactly as I had planned to completely rebuild the course. I knew that's where my energy was meant to be. And with that clarity, it also became very clear that the person who had been managing the tech side of the business wasn't the right fit for where Only is going. Our growth has been so expansive that we don't just need a part-time contractor anymore. We need someone whose full-time focus is the systems, the structures that support everything that we are creating. So I reached out to the incredible website team who had helped me rebuild our website a couple of years ago and asked if they do anything like this. Within an hour, I was on a call with them and it was pretty immediate. That full body grounded hell yes. They spoke the language of our new systems so fluently. They understood what it was, exactly what I was needing before I even finished explaining it. We now have a dedicated project manager who is full-time with Only. They are overseeing the entire tech side of the business, and underneath her, she has an entire team that are experts in all of our systems. So just like I felt a huge weight lifted off of my shoulders when we first hired someone to take over the tech side, this feels like a completely different kind of release. I didn't realize how much reluctance and quiet fear I had when handing these really big responsibilities over before. But I see it now because that fear isn't here anymore. This time, I know with everything in me that this role is being filled by the right person. And that's exactly what happens for so many of you when you find Only. After months or years of searching, of trying to piece together answers that never quite fit, you finally feel seen. It's that moment when someone understands your or your child's symptoms without you even having to explain. That full body exhale, the relief of knowing this is it. So this is actually the reason I don't know when this episode will go live. There is so much strength in surrendering to the timeline of what's meant to be. I could easily just publish this episode right now, but that wouldn't be in alignment with the process that's deeply intentional and aligned with the impact that I am here to make. Allowing myself to slow down and surrender has so much more power than me trying to force it or make it happen. The truth is, the email migration had been done so poorly that our new technical team had to completely start over from scratch. This is a really detailed process, one that takes time to make sure every part of our system is rebuilt correctly and can fully support the growth of Only moving forward. The best thing I can do is surrender, because that's the thing about timing. No matter what area of our life, it rarely unfolds the way that we think we want it to. I've learned this over and over. It's human nature for us to want to fix things quickly, to get to the other side, to see the results of all of the effort that we are pouring in. But healing, just like growth, doesn't follow our timelines. And I think that's how it works for all of us, whether it's your child's healing or your own. There is no wasted time. Every single experience is shaping you, strengthening your intuition, softening your resistance, and preparing you to hold the fullness of what's coming next. You are learning patience. You are building faith. You are strengthening your nervous system to hold what you have been asking for. And when the moment comes, when things finally click into place, when you or your child are fully healed, you will look back and you will see that none of it was wasted. Every delay, every detour, every dollar spent, every false start was leading you home to this exact place where you can hold it all. So my hope for this episode is that it invites you to soften, to release your grip on how you think things should be, to trust that even when it feels like everything is falling apart, it might actually be falling into place. Because true healing, real, deep, sustainable healing, doesn't happen on demand. It happens when we stop forcing and we start trusting, we start listening. And when we do, we find something better than control. We find balance, not the kind that you achieve and check off a list, but the kind that lives in the rhythm of trust, the ebb and the flow of release and renewal. That's what this new season of the Follow Your Gut podcast is about. Not perfectionism, not timeliness, not getting it all right. It's about moving into alignment. It's about surrender. It's about trust. It's about allowing your life to unfold exactly as it's meant to, because it already is. There's just one more piece that I want to leave you with. When my son was finally healed, after years of sleepless nights, endless searching, and relentless fear, I made a promise to myself. I promised that I would never again let the fight to figure it out steal my presence from the moments right in front of me, because I lost 2.5 years of my son's life to that fight, 2.5 years of my daughter's life. And I can never get that back. The grief of losing 2.5 years of my children's really fleeting childhood has become my greatest teacher. It has taught me that control is an illusion, that we can do everything quote unquote right and still be called to surrender. It taught me that our nervous systems don't find safety in knowing what's next. They find it in trusting that whatever comes is exactly what it's supposed to be. So as we step into this new season together, my invitation to you is to stop waiting to arrive. Stop waiting for the perfect moment when the house is calm, when the symptoms are gone, or when everything finally feels stable. Because this right here, this is the moment. Even if your baby is covered in an itchy rash, even if your toddler is screaming through another meltdown, even if your business is in a full-on rebuild and nothing looks the way you imagined, this is living. It's raw, it's imperfect, and it's holy. Embrace it. Trust that rebalancing will heal your or your child's body in its own perfect timing. All you have to do is keep showing up and trust the process. My hope is that season 5 reminds you of this, that it helps you soften into your process, loosen your grip on control, and trust that you are exactly where you are meant to be. Because when we stop fighting the timing of our lives, we finally make space to live them. Before we wrap up, I love closing out the episode with your transformations and answers to your questions. This is my favorite way to stay connected with you and to support you no matter where you are in your healing journey. If you want to submit a question, I open up a question box every month on my Instagram stories, so watch for that. Submit your questions and make sure you are subscribed to the podcast so you are sure to hear the answers. Now, let's get into it. A transformation and a question asked by so many of you in last month's question box. This transformation really speaks to all of the ways our bodies heal when we begin healing from the foundation of the body. Here is what this mama shared. I have updates and I could honestly cry. The difference in just a few months is amazing. My son also just looks so much healthier. I can't thank you enough. These were before. I'll have these before and after pictures embedded on the blog post attached to this episode. You can find it in the show notes if you want to see the before and afters. His poor skin was so dry, itchy, and bleeding. His skin now, no more rashes or redness or bleeding. It cleared up so beautifully and is so much softer. Something else I noticed, my son, who is 9, has always been slim, but the last few months when his eczema had flared up the worst, he lost so much weight and looked very malnourished. Since his skin has cleared up, he has gained a bit of weight and looks so much healthier. This is what happens when we address healing at the root by rebalancing. Eczema is never just a skin issue. It's a reflection of imbalance deep in the gut. When the gut is overrun with bad bacteria, yeast, mold, fungus, or parasites, it creates inflammation that the body tries to push out through the skin. And because that same inflammation disrupts nutrient absorption, the body struggles to get the nourishment it needs, which is why so many people with eczema also look or feel really depleted. This transformation is such a reminder that the body is always communicating, and when we listen by supporting it at the root, healing happens in ways that ripple through every single system in the body. Now on to the question of the week. This one is a really important one. This mama said, I am 8 weeks pregnant and I am miserable. I feel like I have a fire in my tummy and I cannot stop the all-day sickness and vomiting, almost everything. I was wondering if you recommend your product during these times. First of all, you are not alone in this. It is devastating how many women so unnecessarily experience debilitating pregnancies. When symptoms show up, no matter what life stage we are in, they are exactly that. Symptoms trying so hard to communicate with you that something isn't right. Sickness in pregnancy is so common that it's been normalized, but you don't have to settle with this. It is not normal to feel terrible during pregnancy. This is your body asking you for help. So when you become pregnant, your body goes through an enormous hormonal and microbial shift. It is normal for everything to change. Your digestion slows, your liver starts working overtime, and your immune system recalibrates to protect both you and your baby. If you go into pregnancy with an underlying imbalance, which most women do, all of those changes can magnify it. The nausea, the vomiting, the heartburn, that fire in your stomach, it's your body trying to communicate that it's overwhelmed. There's inflammation, sluggish digestion, and a buildup of toxins that your liver and your gut are struggling to process. This isn't your fault. Most women enter pregnancy imbalanced from years of stress, birth control, processed foods, antibiotics, and even just living in our modern, toxic, fast-paced world. The problem is that there is a lack of awareness. None of us are educated about this in the most critical time of our and our children's lives. When pregnancy asks your body to do the most miraculous, demanding thing it will ever do, to grow another human. So it's no wonder it can feel like too much. Now, when it comes to rebalancing during pregnancy, yes, it is one of the most beautiful gifts you can give your body and your baby. The ultimate option of the Woman's Gut Rebalance Kit helps gently clear out the harmful bacteria, yeast, mold, fungus, parasites, toxins, heavy metals that are driving inflammation, while replenishing the beneficial bacteria that supports your digestion, your hormone balance, and immune strength. When your gut is in balance, your liver can finally keep up, your digestion calms, and that constant fire starts to fade. And there's another layer to this. When you heal your gut during pregnancy, You are also supporting your baby's microbiome and their immune system from the very beginning. Everything you do to restore balance in your body directly impacts the foundation your baby is being built on. So, yes, rebalancing is foundational. It can ease your symptoms, support your digestion, and help you feel more like yourself again, all while giving your baby the healthiest start possible. If this episode resonated with you, share it with a friend or a family member who's ready to lead her family's healing. Everything mentioned in this episode is linked down below for you in the show notes. Be sure to subscribe to the Nourish newsletter, also linked down below, so you never miss an episode. I will email you the latest episode every Tuesday morning. Everything shared on this show is for educational purposes only, not intended as medical advice. Until next time, trust your body and follow your gut.